Welcome to today's deep dive. We have a mission lined up that is, well, it's perfectly tailored for those of you who love to dissect a good philosophical puzzle.
Oh, absolutely. And for those who are constantly learning and appreciate a mental model that really shifts how you view the world.
Right. Because we are unpacking a highly unusual astrological forecast for tomorrow. That's March 7th, 2026,
Yes, sourced from Tarot by High C.
which you can find at tarot.hic.net.
But before we jump into the actual mechanics of tomorrow's sky, we really should clarify the nature of this source material.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because even if you don't follow astrology, the approach here is universally applicable. The author doesn't just list out dry planetary coordinates.
Thank goodness.
Right. Instead, they use what they call StoryScopes.
StoryScopes.
Yes, which are allegorical narratives designed to kind of bypass our analytical defenses.
I love that. Using fiction to reveal these deep truths about human behavior.
Exactly. They illustrate the real-world psychological impact of these cosmic shifts.
So whether you are an astrology enthusiast or just someone who enjoys exploring how we perceive reality, how we deceive ourselves, and attempt to balance critical thinking with empathy, this deep dive is going to offer some massive aha moments.
And the overarching themes today revolve around this tension between hidden truths and beautiful illusions.
Which is a tough balance.
It really is. So as we analyze these stories, consider your own mental frameworks. Think about where you might be clinging to a specific narrative that is actually just a reflection of your own bias.
Or where you might be looking at a situation through rose-colored glasses when you desperately need to be looking at the hard data.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this. We have two major cosmic events on the docket for March 7th.
Two big ones.
The first is the Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde, and the second is Venus conjunct Neptune. Let's start by demystifying that first one for anyone who doesn't speak astrology.
That is a crucial starting point. So a conjunction simply means two celestial bodies are appearing in the exact same spot in our sky.
Effectively blending their energies.
Right. And in this case, the Sun, which represents our core vitality and focus, is blending with Mercury.
The planet of communication, intellect, and information.
Exactly. But furthermore, Mercury is retrograde.
The infamous retrograde.
Which is just an optical illusion where a planet appears to be moving backward from our vantage point on Earth.
But astrologically, a retrograde signals a period to pause, right? To look backward and review rather than push forward.
Yes. And the source described this specific alignment as a sacred moment of truth.
It's not about unprecedented events occurring out of the blue, then.
No, it is a period where vital information that was previously obscured comes to light. Old conversations return for much-needed closure.
And we are forced to reassess our existing plans.
On a broader, collective level, the forecast suggests this alignment correlates with significant revelations of hidden or dismissed truths.
We're talking about paradigm shifting in fields like ancient history, philosophy, or religion.
But the caveat the text emphasizes is that this clarity will not arrive as an overnight epiphany.
It develops slowly, piece by piece.
Advising us to evaluate carefully, rather than rushing to conclusions.
That concept of old things demanding a second look brings us directly to our first StoryScope.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
It's titled The Chamber of Echoes, and the narrative follows an archaeologist named Dr. Elias Rowan. He receives this anonymous letter slipped under his office door. No return address, just a single photograph and one line of text.
The truth was never hidden. You simply weren't ready to see it.
That line, it immediately grounds us in the theme of the retrograde.
It really challenges the assumption that we are always objective observers of our own lives.
So the photograph in the envelope shows an ancient circular stone chamber.
Right.
And the walls are covered in this chaotic mixture of carved symbols, fragments of Greek, Hebrew, and older, unidentified markings.
A true ancient mystery.
Exactly. But the defining feature of the room is a perfectly still, reflective pool at its center.
And in the reflection of the water, those fragmented symbols merge into something coherent.
Which is wild. Elias recognizes the chamber instantly. He discovered it 20 years prior and then deliberately buried the findings.
We have to look at the psychology behind his decision to hide it, though.
Right, because when Elias was a young academic, he brought this discovery to his peers.
And they dismissed it as a misinterpretation.
It was a massive professional embarrassment for him.
So to protect his ego and maintain his standing in the academic community, he chose to forget it.
He valued his professional security over a complex truth.
But the retrograde energy forces a confrontation with the past. Someone else has found his chamber.
So Elias takes this restless flight back to the mountains of Cappadocia in Turkey. The text notes he's haunted by old warnings from local caretakers.
They told him that some places only reveal their nature when a person is truly ready.
He finally stands inside that buried chamber again. He kneels by the pool, looks at the reflection, and reads a translated message in the water.
Truth is not hidden. Truth waits. Every age rediscovers what it once ignored.
The final sentence is the most striking, though. The seeker is the final inscription.
That phrase is a phenomenal distillation of how we interact with information.
But the story throws a massive wrench into that theory before he can even process the words.
It really does.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Elias hears a voice behind him. He turns to see Professor Mira Halden.
A historian famous for chasing suppressed texts.
She's the one who sent the photograph.
And she explains she brought him there because society is currently going through a phase of rediscovering everything it previously buried,
She's observing a cyclical pattern of human behavior.
which perfectly mirrors the retrograde motion in the sky. Civilizations constantly circle back to old philosophies.
Always convinced they are discovering the ultimate truth for the very first time.
Always.
Mira has a specific agenda, though. As they stand near the pool, a new line of text appears in the reflection.
The one who understands must choose what remains hidden.
She tells Elias that the academic world suspects this chamber holds the ultimate unifying truth of all religions.
And her fear is that if this becomes public knowledge, humanity won't unite.
They'll go to war to claim ownership of it.
Exactly. So she wants Elias to make the call on whether this truth should be suppressed forever to protect society.
It is a classic philosophical dilemma regarding gatekeeping.
Do you release a profound truth, knowing humanity's instinct for tribalism will likely weaponize it?
Mira is operating under the assumption that the chamber holds one absolute objective reality.
She genuinely believes she is protecting the world by controlling the narrative.
Elias, however, is still pondering that phrase. The seeker is the final inscription.
He's starting to figure it out.
He tells Mira to look closely at the reflection, and when she leans over the water, the inscriptions rearrange themselves entirely,
The words Mira sees are fundamentally different from the words Elias saw.
which completely shatters her premise.
That is the pivotal realization of the narrative. The chamber does not contain an objective message,
It acts as a mirror.
showing each individual the truth they are psychologically prepared to see.
If you open that chamber to the public, every single scholar will walk out absolutely convinced that their specific pre-existing worldview has just been validated by ancient stone.
What's fascinating here is how this operates as a mental model for confirmation bias.
Oh, totally.
Our brains are neurologically wired to accept evidence that supports what we already believe.
And to filter out evidence that contradicts it.
We see this constantly in the real world. Think about how we curate our news feeds or social media algorithms.
We build our own digital chambers of echoes.
And then we marvel at how much evidence there is to support our specific worldview.
The story takes that abstract psychological concept and makes it so visceral.
It does. When Elias says, the seeker is the final inscription, he is reminding you that you do not read the world objectively.
You read it through the lens of your own history, your fears, your readiness.
The astrological advice for this transit is to not rush to conclusions. It requires immense self-awareness to pause and ask yourself a hard question.
Are the convictions I am clinging to right now based on objective reality, or am I just looking into a pool and seeing what my ego needs to see?
Exactly.
That danger of seeing only what we want to see sets up a perfect trap for our second cosmic event.
Venus conjunct Neptune.
We should establish the baseline for this alignment as well.
Good idea.
Venus represents our values, our relationships, and what we are attracted to.
And Neptune is the planet of dreams, illusions, spirituality, and boundless compassion.
When you blend those two energies in a conjunction, you get a period of heightened emotional sensitivity.
It fosters artistic inspiration and a deep desire for connection.
However, the forecast attaches a severe warning label to this transit.
It really does. The blending of Venus and Neptune tends to dissolve our emotional boundaries.
We put on rose-colored glasses.
This invites projection. We start to see the potential in people or situations rather than the reality.
Which makes us highly susceptible to deception in our relationships and our financial dealings.
And our second StoryScope, The Glasses of Rosewater, illustrates this vulnerability beautifully.
We're introduced to Thomas, a quiet glassmaker living in a valley surrounded by orchards.
Thomas creates delicate, beautiful objects.
But his masterpiece is a simple pair of spectacles. The lenses are faintly tinted the color of rose petals.
And the local legend is that whoever wears these glasses sees the inherent goodness hidden inside the world.
It's the literal manifestation of the astrological concept.
Right there on the page.
The first villager to test them is Eleni. She's a baker, infamous for her sharp tongue and constant arguing.
But when Tomas places the glasses on her face, her demeanor shifts instantly.
The cracked paving stones in the square look like deliberate mosaics.
The exhausted faces of her neighbors suddenly appear kind.
She looks at the notoriously grumpy butcher and sees a man carrying a quiet, noble sadness.
She takes the glasses off and tells Tomas she finally understands people.
The glasses unlock her capacity for empathy, and as the spectacles are shared around the village, the entire community transforms.
Arguments cease, art flourishes, and people treat each other with profound grace.
It highlights the positive manifestation of the Venus-Neptune alignment.
The incredible healing power of assuming the best in others.
But wait, let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Go for it.
If the glasses are making an abrasive baker kind, and the village as a whole is happier and more peaceful, isn't that a net positive? Why is the forecast framing this compassion as a dangerous thing?
That is the exact tension the story explores.
Mm.
Compassion is absolutely a net positive for social cohesion.
Right.
The danger arises when compassion completely overrides discernment.
Oh, I see.
Empathy allows you to understand someone's struggles, but if you lose the ability to see their flaws or their mistakes, you become entirely defenseless.
You mistake the beautiful potential of a situation for its current reality.
Which brings us to the conflict of this story. We meet another villager named Mira.
Not the historian from the first story, just to be clear.
Right, this Mira is an accountant who works in the village counting house.
She possesses a very careful, analytical mind.
And a traveling merchant arrives in the valley, and he's wearing a pair of Kamas's rose-tinted spectacles.
He pitches a shared investment to the village, promising to fund new caravans that will bring wealth to everyone.
The villagers, who are currently operating under the influence of this heightened empathy, are swept up in his vision.
They trust him implicitly.
But Mira, the accountant, notices a vital detail. The merchant never takes his glasses off.
Not even when he is drawing up the financial contracts.
Mira reviews the numbers and discovers the math simply does not work.
There are discrepancies everywhere.
When she tries to point this out, the merchant dismisses her concerns with a warm laugh, insisting she is seeing problems where none exist.
And the villagers side with the merchant. They tell Mira she is being too cynical.
Frustrated, Mira visits Tomas the glassmaker late at night.
The dialogue in the scene is crucial. Mira demands to know what the glasses actually do, specifically asking if they hide the truth.
Tomas tells her they do not hide truth, but they may encourage the wearer to look only at what is beautiful.
And Mira responds with a brilliant observation that is not always the same thing.
Beauty and truth are frequently not the same thing, despite our desperate desire to conflate the two.
As the days pass, the village continues to feel peaceful, but Mira watches the debt accumulate. The contracts are flawed.
Eventually, Tomas brings Mira her own pair of glasses.
He warns her that while she sees the world clearly, clarity without compassion can become a harsh kind of blindness.
So she puts them on.
She looks at the village, the soft light, the happy faces, and then she looks at the merchant.
Through the lenses, she realizes something terrifying.
The merchant's smile is entirely sincere.
He is not running a calculated scam.
He genuinely believes every single promise he is making.
This raises an important question about the nature of deception. When Mira returns the glasses, she tells Tomas that the merchant doesn't even know he is lying.
Tomas replies, "Many illusions begin that way. Good intentions wearing rose lenses."
This is the ultimate warning of the Venus-Neptune conjunction.
It's like when a friend pitches you a startup idea. They aren't trying to con you.
No, they are incredibly passionate. They genuinely believe their app is going to change the world.
But they haven't actually looked at the profit margins or the market research. They are blinded by their own optimism.
That is a perfect real-world parallel. The most difficult illusions to dismantle are not the ones spun by malicious actors.
They are the ones spun by people who have intoxicated themselves with their own potential.
The merchant's bad math wasn't a lie to him. His absolute faith in a beautiful outcome made him oblivious to the factual reality of his spreadsheet.
Which makes him incredibly persuasive. Sincerity is infectious.
It is. The next day, the merchant calls a meeting to collect more investments.
Mira steps forward and calmly asks the villagers to do one thing.
Take off their glasses for just a moment before they sign the paperwork.
The villagers reluctantly comply, and without the soft glow of the lenses, they look at the contracts.
The discrepancies are glaringly obvious. The square goes completely silent.
It is the reality check that always follows a Neptune transit.
The fog lifts, the fantasy dissolves, and the stark financial truth is exposed.
Even the merchant, forced to look at his own math without the tint of optimism, realizes his profound error.
The way the village handles the fallout is my favorite part of the text.
Eleni the baker, the one who first experienced the empathy, steps forward.
She puts her glasses back on and says, "The village is still kind, but kindness must see clearly."
The community finally finds the synthesis between the two extremes.
They realize that the magic of the glasses wasn't in making the world beautiful all the time.
It was in teaching them that empathy cannot replace wisdom.
The story ends by detailing how different people use the glasses. Mira the accountant keeps hers on a shelf,
She puts them on when a neighbor comes to her in distress to listen with an open heart.
but she absolutely refuses to wear them when she is reviewing the ledgers.
So, what does this all mean? We have navigated ancient, reflective chambers and valleys full of rose-tinted glass.
How do you take these distinct fables and apply them as a mental framework for your life right now?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, both the astrological alignments and their corresponding stories are providing a masterclass on how to audit our perception of reality.
The Sun conjunct Mercury retrograde through the Chamber of Echoes forces us to audit our internal biases.
It is a directive to stop assuming that the truths we uncover are objective facts.
We have to rigorously question our own readiness and our own egos before we claim to understand a situation.
Lest we end up just admiring our own reflection in a pool, we have to actively fight the urge to seek only the evidence that proves we were right all along.
Precisely. On the other side of the equation, the Venus conjunct Neptune transit, illustrated by the glasses of rosewater, demands we audit our external perceptions.
It acknowledges that empathy is the glue that holds a community together.
However, it warns that extending trust and compassion without verifying the facts is a recipe for disaster.
Clarity without compassion is brutal, but compassion without clarity is pure delusion.
It requires a constant, conscious adjustment of our lenses.
The practical application for you today is to adopt the accountant's strategy.
Keep your metaphorical spectacles on a shelf.
When you are dealing with a colleague who is struggling or a friend who needs grace, put the lenses on, soften your judgment, and look for their inherent goodness.
But when it is time to sign the contract, make a major career pivot, or set a boundary in a relationship, you have to take the glasses off.
Look at the raw data. Kindness must see clearly.
I love that phrasing. Kindness must see clearly.
To recap the mental models we have unpacked, remember that clarity is a slow process, not a sudden revelation.
Dr. Elias Rowan reminded us to differentiate between an absolute truth and a reflection of our own bias.
Tomas the glassmaker and the accountant showed us how to balance the profound beauty of empathy with the unyielding nature of reality.
Proceed carefully today. Review your plans and make sure the math actually adds up.
Exactly. And, we always like to leave you with a final provocative thought to mull over as you navigate your day.
We discussed the concept that the seeker is the final inscription, and we acknowledge that we all, inevitably, view the world through our own curated lenses. But what happens when the lens you are looking through becomes the reflection you see? Are the truths you are discovering about your life right now actually teaching you about the objective world? Or are they simply showing you the exact shape and tint of your own rose-colored glasses?
That is certainly a question that demands some introspection. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope it provided you with a new framework for analyzing your decisions, a bit of philosophical intrigue, and some highly practical wisdom. Keep questioning your assumptions, keep learning, and remember to step carefully into the world. Take care.